evening and welcome to Knowledge is Power. Tonight's Thursday night, the 19th of July, the year of our Lord 2012. As you know, on Thursday nights, I'm Richard Finley. I'm your host. And I want to welcome all of you in. Had guest host sitting in last week. I trust that you took good care of him, Curtis, and everything went well?
It was very well.
All
very
right.
informative.
All right. Well, that's good. That's good. I had to take a bit of time off. Attended a family reunion. Those are always good to attend, every now and then anyway. But this one turned out to be a rather delightful event. I enjoyed meeting with a host of relatives from all over the country. Also had an opportunity to travel over to Philadelphia and meet with my daughter and her husband. Had a very pleasant 2 days there in Philadelphia. And so now we are back to the grind, dealing with the issues that confront us here in Birmingham, Jefferson, Alabama. As is my normal routine, for my regular listeners who are commuting, trying to get home to be with the family, we encourage you to always put the cell phone down. You're allowed to turn the radio up. Keep both hands on the wheel. Keep your eyes on the road so that you might arrive home safely to those who are anticipating your arrival. And finally, as you gather around the dinner table, we would hope that your parents would allow the children to listen to the program. Although we try to focus on what we call grown folks conversation, we certainly want the young people to listen so that they might learn. We try to be as informative as we can to deposit with our young people some perspective on the events of the day, particularly from a reference point that is not biased, but certainly favorable to our listening audience. While I was away, I had several phone calls from friends who informed me that the Birmingham News did an editorial on Sunday, Curtis. And in that editorial, as a response to my appearance before the Public Safety Committee of the Birmingham City Council, well, basically what we did was talk to the councilors about doing some long-range planning, about being cognizant of the situation that exists here in bankrupt Jefferson County, and ask them to do some visioning and some imagining of what would be the role and responsibility of city government should we have a completely non-functioning county government. We know that county government has been cut back severely, that services are at a minimum. And so I asked the Public Safety Committee to begin some investigation to look at the possibilities and the capabilities of the city should the county fold completely. But more specifically, I asked them to consider establishing an independent, autonomous healthcare authority. I did not ask the city of Birmingham to take over Cooper Green Mercy Hospital. I asked them to allow the authority to be developed. City of Birmingham, as a Class A or Class 1 city, has that ability to create autonomous authorities or boards, like the Board of Education, the Water Board, the Economic Development Board. There are several autonomous boards that receive their authorization through a resolution of the Birmingham City Council that operate completely independent of city government. There was never any request nor any intent for the Birmingham City government to take over the operations of Cooper Green Mercy Hospital. You know, that wouldn't make any sense. Yeah, we're trying to get away from the county government so that it can be run by an independent authority of healthcare professionals and concerned citizens. We have done extensive studies looking at the merits of establishing an independent healthcare authority to operate the hospital. The county commission paid a consulting firm almost $1 million to make recommendations on streamlining the county's operation. And on the final page of their, what might have been a 6-page report, they recommended to the county commissioners that the hospital be moved under an independent authority, separate from the county, so that if you believe the county commissioners and you believe the Birmingham News that tells you that the hospital is a money pit, that it is draining the county's general fund, that it costs the county has to put in $10 million every year, you would think that they would leap at the opportunity to offload this burden. But yet, they decry the management. They constantly attack the operation. They keep the 700+ employees on pins and needles that are interfering with everything that goes on over there, but they refuse to let it go. The very thought of the city of Birmingham allowing an independent autonomous healthcare authority to be created brought down on the raft of the editorial board of the Birmingham News. Now, I don't know who's on the editorial board anymore. I know Mr. Eddie Laird was certainly an outstanding journalist, but they had a policy shift, and he didn't fit in the new policy, so they let him go. I understand that Mr. Blaylock is no longer there. So I don't know who's on the editorial board, but I do know one thing. They are biased, they're compromised, they're racist, and they're inaccurate in their view of this situation. And the citizens of this community would do well to seek their information from another source, one that is bound by the codes of ethics of journalism. Certainly, the Birmingham News has not read that code in some time, and certainly has no intention of adhering to it when it comes to stating opinions about the common good and the public welfare. So, hopefully, I've shed some light on this, because I wanted everybody to understand that, there's hit puppies hollered at the thought that the city government of Birmingham would step in to try to intercede on behalf of 700 employees at the hospital, step in to try to save a $100 million a year operation that exists within the city of Birmingham. Certainly this is something that's in Birmingham's public interest. Certainly the county, as stated by them and by the newspaper on several occasions, is incapable of managing the hospital. So it would seem to me, in any objective viewer, that if FTI, who you paid almost $1 million to give you recommendations, recommends a healthcare authority as the way to go, if you, in your resolution to Dr. Hewitt, authorizing her to take all steps necessary to create a healthcare authority, would simply follow through on your resolution and your stated commitment, then if what you're saying is true, you will immediately save $10 million for the county's general fund, since you say you're broke. You know, that's what you tell the bankruptcy judge anyway. So, allow the city of Birmingham to pass a resolution so that Dr. Hewitt, under the auspices of the same resolution that you passed, could move forward with establishing an independent, autonomous board of professionals that would be vetted and publicly scrutinized and voted on by the City Council of Birmingham, would be put in place to ensure that with the continuation of the Imaging Care Fund, with the streamlining of operations, see, because once the healthcare authority is created, the hospital can save all kinds of money by working with other healthcare authorities. Every hospital that operates in Jefferson County, to my knowledge, operates under a healthcare authority. It allows them certain efficiencies in operation. It allows them certain economies of scale in purchasing their goods necessary to deliver their services, and it gives them more flexibility in negotiating with their service providers. So, you know, we've looked at this thing from every angle, and certainly a non-political board of directors selected by the people of Birmingham could operate that hospital quite successfully. Not only could we save the existing 700 jobs, we could probably expand the operation down the road to encompass another 200 or 300 people, thereby stimulating the local economy here in Birmingham. So I wanted to address that because I got a number of phone calls saying what the Birmingham News had written. I haven't had a chance to read the editorial, but good friends of mine informed me that their arguments were rather specious, and that it appeared to be a political position that the editorial board was taking. And the fact that some commissioners, or one commissioner, stated that, you know, I had no standing to go before the Birmingham City Council. I have to remind that commissioner that I am a citizen of Birmingham, that I work for a commissioner whose district largely covers Birmingham, and that we have a responsibility as representatives of the people in our district to do all we can to serve the common good of the people within our district. And certainly the people within our district have voiced strong support for the continued operation of the Cooper Green Mercy Hospital, and we would certainly hope that you, as elected officials of a representative democracy, would heed the wishes of the voters and allow this thing to move forward without political involvement. I want to go to the break in a minute, Curtis, but then I want to come back and talk about the bankruptcy and a couple of other items that I found of interest, since we're having all kind of problems here with our transportation system. Those of you who are involved in transportation, or those of you who just might have relatives, should know that there is a major referendum at the end of this month in Atlanta, levying, I think, a 1-cent tax for a regional transportation development for Atlanta. Now, Atlanta already has a very extensive public transit system, but the people there have, I guess, grown to love the operations of MARTA so much that they want to expand accessibility to public transportation throughout the state of Georgia. And I received a phone call and several emails from friends of mine, members and representatives of the Atlanta Business League. Atlanta Business League, for those of you who don't know, is an offshoot of the national, it's the grandchild of the National Negro Business League, started by Booker T. Washington. And you all know how I feel about Booker T. Washington. Later on in the program, we will talk about the Washington Douglas Public Policy Institute and our position on the regional transportation referendum that's taking place in Georgia. The Atlanta Business League is in full support of this effort, largely because of the commitment that the mayor of Atlanta has made to be fair in terms of awarding the contracts to do the work, professional as well as the construction contracts to do the work. So the black business community is fully prepared to engage in getting this referendum passed, because they have firm commitments not only from the mayor of Atlanta, but from the governor of Georgia, that black businesses will receive a representative share of the contracts and the work to be done on this project. So we could have a series of new multi-millionaires created in the black community in Atlanta once this project is complete. And one of the things that we know about public transportation, just like the highways here in Alabama, they're never complete. So if you create this kind of public works opportunity, you do a great deal towards stimulating the economy. And one of the things that we will talk about in future broadcasts is our proposals to link Birmingham to Atlanta and to create this kind of economic projects that will allow for black-owned businesses to participate fully. Because if you've heard me say several times on this program, public money belongs to the public. It is not just white people's money. So black people pay taxes, black people have businesses and buy business licenses. So Birmingham and Jefferson County, if we're going to grow and prosper, then we've got to learn to cooperate on projects of this nature. We're not going to stand in line as half citizens or 3/5 citizens. We are whole citizens. We don't want no minority portion or nothing. We want a fair share of everything that goes on. Certainly, Atlanta is an example of where the educated, intellectual, and business community have merged, recognizing that it is not our destiny to be second-class citizens. It is not our destiny to be poor, barely making it, scraping by. No, we're going to be full participants in the growth and development of our communities. And this is how we do that. So we look to Atlanta Business League. You might remember that I had Mr. Joe Hudson on our program a few weeks back talking about black business. And in the email that I got, Mr. Hudson is standing directly behind Mayor Reid as the Atlanta Business League shows its muscle and support for the mayor and for economic growth and development within the city of Atlanta. All right, you're listening to Knowledge is Power. Tonight's Thursday night. I'm Richard Finley. I'm your host. Always know that we're brought to you by our Community Development Birmingham. Community House on the third Saturday of every month. And if I'm not mistaken, Curtis, this Saturday is the third Saturday. So I would encourage you to go out Saturday morning. I have been told, I don't know that it's firm yet, that I will be there with the Community Development Birmingham on this Saturday. So I encourage a large turnout. We want all of you to come out, be excited about our city, be excited about the things that we can do. We've got a number of issues that we need to address, and together I'm sure that once we have established within our community understanding, and though we got more churches than anybody around here, you read your Bible, and the Bible will tell you that in all of your getting, first, get some understanding. So once we begin to understand how this economic engine, how this political engine that is Birmingham, that is the economic heart of the state of Alabama operates, then I expect you to put your shoulder to the wheel, and that we will all pull together to create the kind of economic dynamism, and I hope I pronounced that right, that will spur us to be the great city that we can become. We need to encourage all of our citizens with what's going on at Cooper Green, with what's happening at the county in bankruptcy, with the tremendous economic opportunities that exist for Birmingham to step up and take control in Jefferson County. We want to encourage all of you to get involved. Because, you know, every now and then, life presents you with situations and opportunities that matter, where your voice can make a difference. We're celebrating 50 years since 1963. A lot of you who were led to act upon a situation that mattered in 1963 are now retired. So you have no excuse, once again, to step up and be the force that drives Birmingham forward. So let's get involved. Let's do something that matters. Let's save Cooper Green Hospital. Let's save Jefferson County. Let's move Birmingham to the top of the list of rapidly growing southern cities. Let's take our rightful place among the progressive communities of the South. You're listening to Knowledge is Power. We'll be back after.
Now, back to more Knowledge is Power.
All right, welcome back. Tonight's Thursday night. I'm Richard Finley. I'm your host. July 19th, 2012. As we go into our second segment, those of you who are regular listeners have heard several programs and several mentions of a public policy institute that I am a part of, with several individuals from across the state of Alabama. We have been meeting over the years talking about how we address a lot of the actions and activities that occur in our community on a regular basis that prove to be, at the very least, of no benefit to our community, and most of the time having a severe negative impact upon our community. I want you to keep listening, because at some point in the near future we will have a public meeting here in Birmingham where we address a number of issues, but we're going to be using this radio program also to introduce you to the concept of the Washington Douglas Public Policy Institute, and hopefully to get you to embrace some of the Institute's policies and initiatives. What I would like to do is read to you a creed that was agreed upon by the existing membership of the Washington Douglas Public Policy Institute. And it reads thusly: We believe that the free enterprise system is the most productive supplier of human needs and economic justice. We believe that all individuals are entitled to equal rights, justice, and opportunity, and should assume their responsibilities as citizens in a free society. That fiscal responsibility and budgetary restraint must be exercised at all levels of government. That the federal government must preserve our nation through a strong national defense. We believe that faith in God, as recognized by our fathers, is essential to the moral fiber of our people. We aim to assure Black Americans that knowledge can be obtained under difficulties, that poverty may give place to competency, that obscurity is not an absolute bar to distinction, and that a way is open to prosperity and happiness to all who will resolutely and wisely pursue that way, that neither slavery, discrimination, nor imprisonment will extinguish self-respect, crush manly ambition, or paralyze effort. That no power outside of himself can prevent a man from sustaining an honorable character and a useful relation to his day and his generation. That, ladies and gentlemen, is the creed that the members of the Washington Douglas Public Policy Institute live by. I would encourage all of you who are listening as a family, and even those of you who are listening as individuals, to go out immediately and secure copies of any books that you can find by Frederick Douglass, Booker T. Washington, or Carter G. Woodson. Make these books staples in your house. Put them next to your Bible. Once you complete your Bible study, then sit with your family and read chapters from Douglas's writings, from Washington's writing, and certainly from Dr. Carter G. Woodson, who spent a lifetime studying the social habits of the then Negro community. Because we need these insights. We need to understand the things that we're doing that are working to our detriment. We need a sense of awareness that will only come to us once we get a realistic perspective on who we are. You see, we've got 2 generations that have been removed from true education. And those of you in my generation who graduated from colored elementary schools and colored high schools, who really got an education from able colored teachers, you know of these people, and you have a responsibility now to take some time with your grandchildren and make them aware of Douglas, Washington, and Woodson. It is imperative, if we are to survive as a people, that our young people clearly understand what we have gone through in these United States of America, so that they can appreciate our potential within these United States of America. All right, so much for the Washington Douglas Public Policy Institute. I hope you take it to heart. I hope you will begin to do those things within your family. Put the computer down for a minute, turn the television off, and at least take an hour where y'all can discuss the writings of Douglas, Washington, and Woodson. I assure you that you will be much better for having done so. And that reminds me that the Miles College National Alumni Association is in town today through the weekend, I think. But I got a call from an old classmate of mine, Brother David Fields out of Detroit, saying that he was coming to town. He is a regular listener to Knowledge is Power, and I want to wish him and the Alumni Association all of the best of luck. And for all of you Miles College graduates out there, take time, write a check, and support the school. We certainly would appreciate that, and I'm sure the Alumni Association would appreciate that as well. Okay, back to Jefferson County for the next 10 minutes or so. Those of you who are following and engaged, and again, I want to encourage all y'all out there in Dolomite. I mean, I know y'all listening, sitting on the front porch, but you have to start talking to your neighbors about these issues, because these are going to affect your pocketbooks, and you need all the money that you can get to use for yourself. You certainly don't need to be duped in this crime-ridden sewer fiasco and have them take money away that you could be saving for your grandkids' college or for that new car, whatever it is you're saving that money for. But it's your money, and it shouldn't be scammed out of your pocket by corrupt activities of unscrupulous individuals who at the time were operating your county government. But I wanted to talk about an article that was written about the filings, the royal intervention, the citizens' intervention into this bankruptcy fiasco. You know that prior to Mr. Grigsby coming to town, that you had no representation. The court down in Phoenix City, Alabama, said that the state attorney was to represent the ratepayers. And if any of y'all have gotten a call from your lawyer at the state, give me a call and let me know. But prior to that, there was no representation for the ratepayers and citizens of Birmingham who were being victimized by this crime. So Mr. Grigsby came to our aid and gathered the names of several prominent individuals. I know Mr. Royal, Mr. Hoyt, Representative Moore, Representative Rogers, William Muhammad, and I understand several hundred, if not 1,000 other signees in a class action, basically arguing that the bonds or the indentures obligating us to $3 billion in debt were issued illegally. Now, I was informed earlier that the filing had been received by the bankruptcy court and that the creditor banks had responded to the filing. There's a couple of things in their response that I think you should find interesting. They objected to the intervention, basically saying that the citizens or the ratepayers had no standing, that the intervention, if it were to come, should come from Jefferson County. And, well, it should. And at the very least, it should come from the State Attorney General. And, well, it should. And the question that you should be asking is, why is it not coming from the county? And why is it not coming from the Attorney General? Why is it that since you're the one responsible for repaying this $3 billion, forfeiting your property values and your grandchildren's education and whatever other little wealth you might have gathered, you're the ones to pay for this, but you can't have your voice in court. Now, it would appear to me that outrage should be seeping through your body right now. You, possibly a property owner, certainly a taxpayer, who elected your county government, and that your county government refuses to represent you in the filing of this bankruptcy. Well, I guess they say they didn't ask you could they go into bankruptcy. They just went into bankruptcy and they didn't care what you said. But you ought to care about this money being taken out of your paycheck every month. That what meager savings that you could put together to help with the education of your grandchildren what little wealth you have accumulated in the equity in your home is being stolen from you by this criminal activity. And the people that you elected to represent you in this representative democracy of ours are choosing to represent you. They say they represent the corporate entity of Jefferson County. And I say, what the hell is Jefferson County if it is not the people? You know, somewhere I read in the civics class that we were a government of, for, and by the people. So when do we start electing people who are not responsible to us any longer? When do we start electing people who can go out and make decisions based on what they think is best for the corporate entity to have with the impact upon the citizens? I mean, if there is anything that should outrage you, then this should be it. You know, I said to you a few moments earlier, when life presents you an opportunity to engage or to attack an issue that matters, that has consequences, an issue that will impact your economic future, but not only your economic future, your children, your children's children, and your children. This is an issue that matters. And if in your lifetime you find yourself in this situation and you choose not to act, then essentially you're dead. You might walk around for another 30 years, 40 years. But inside you're just dead. Because you don't deal with the things that matter. You shouldn't have to be solicited to come out and protest, to demand of your government that it work for your best interest. This should just be second nature. These people come ask for your vote. They promise you they're going to do all these things that are going to make your life better, that are going to benefit you. Well, everything in Jefferson County has gone to hell. And you cannot sit on the front porch, the back porch, wherever you're sitting, and ignore this. You're doing your family a disservice if you allow those people to impose upon you and your posterity this kind of burden. We will never make any progress in this community if we have a habit of tolerating not only this kind of incompetence, this kind of immorality, but this kind of lawlessness on the part of people that we select to represent us. First, they insult us by going into bankruptcy with nobody who looks like us. They make no apology for it, they make no excuse for it. No black people in the courtroom. Of the residential customers, we are the majority. But they don't come explain anything else. They don't ask a lawyer from our community to come and participate so that they don't inform us of what's going on in the courtroom. They don't care what we think. They go down there and conduct their business, charge the county $1 million plus amount that you pay, and they tell you that you're not going to stay in the courtroom, that you can't be represented in the courtroom. When you find a champion that will go ahead and fight for you, they don't want to close the door. They don't want to talk to him. They don't want to negotiate with him. They don't feel that they have any obligation to you. Now, here's grown men and women are going to be disrespected in this manner by an elected government. You know, I could really understand. I'm thinking Syria or other parts of the world where they were dominated by autocratic dictators. But that's not America. We are a representative democracy. The government should work for us. The government should be of us. And it should be run by us, by people that we select to make it work for us. You're not getting any of that. You're being totally disrespected by your county government. In this day and age, 50 years after 1963, almost 50 years since you got a right to vote for in this whole process, you are economically worse off, you are educationally worse off, you have gotten a terrible deal out of this process. And as we approach the 50th anniversary, those of you who are my age, who came out as children to demand freedom, well, you really did it. And just Monday, since you're retired now, and you got your pension, maybe learn how to become an activist. Show our children how to stand up for what is rightfully yours. Show our children how a participatory government should work. Show our children how to be men and women of substance and character by demanding the address of their government. Show them the value of freedom. We have this obligation. We have to throw off these shackles of mental slavery. We have to recognize this propaganda BS that is being thrown at us through these medias and these newspapers that we don't control. And we have to recognize that we are not 3/5 of a citizen. We are fully vested in this corporation. We have every right and privilege that we are capable of exercising. But other problem is, we don't exercise that we're capable of. I think it was Dr. King once who said, no man can ride your back. No man can keep you down without your complicity. The only reason that we are economically deprived in Jefferson County is because we accept it, we agree to it. We control entities in this community that control billions of dollars in public money that we continue to let flow out of our community. You know, I was listening the other day when the president was talking, and it is clear when one entity talks about cutting government back and cutting out the spending for a subsistence economy, but then on the other hand, talk about building roads and bridges. Well, that's how the other group militaries don't work. They don't have public money. You, because you two didn't recognize that was public money, and you should have insisted that it be spent fairly among all members of the public. You know, we get this complaint all the time down in the county that you know, we need to cooperate. Well, we will cooperate. You know, when half of the public money is spent with people in our community and half is spent with people in your community, then we've got a basis to cooperate. But as long as we don't take everything, No black businesses are doing, no black professionals are doing anything in Jefferson County. And you sit quietly. You don't have any problem with that. You don't object to that. You struggle by from payday to payday. And you don't protest the fact that billions of dollars in public money is collected out of your collective pockets. And none of it comes back into your community. None of it. Things that matter. When life presents you with an opportunity to address things that matter, and you choose not to, then you died. You're listening to Knowledge is Power. We'll take a break, and we'll be right back.
Now, back to more Knowledge is Power.
All right, welcome back. Tonight's Thursday night. You're listening to Knowledge is Power. I'm Richard Finley. I'm your host along with the great Curtis Bell. Curtis, how you doing this evening?
Oh, we're enjoying this interesting information that you've gathered up and you're bringing to us.
All right, well, I hope you are motivated to take action and deal with those things that matter in our community. I am reminded before we go to the phone lines that there is this point that we need to repeat every week, and that is, when you control a man's mind, you don't have to worry about his actions. You do not have to tell him not to stand here or to go yonder. He will find his proper place and will stay in it. You do not need to send him to the back door. He will go without being told. In fact, if there is no back door, he will cut one for his special benefit. His education makes that necessary. The miseducation of the black man. We go through this valley trying to spur or rally your sense of responsibility. We talk a lot about Black history. I encourage you to read the writings of Douglass and Washington and Woodson. But I also want you to be aware that every day that you live, you are creating Black history. I want you to give some thought while you're sitting there to your story. What are you going to tell your grandchildren about when you were here in Birmingham in Jefferson County from 2000 to 2020? What role did you play? What issues that mattered did you address? Who are you in the crowd? Give that some thought. As we approach the 50th anniversary of 1963, it always amazed me that after the marching and the beatings and the murders and the sacrifices, how many leaders emerged after things had settled down. So here I am in the crowd. Are you going to emerge as an individual who can truly tell the story of the work that you did? You see, because we've been captivated and caught up into this leadership culture. And we don't have much to say about the workers, the folk who actually got the job done. So I encourage you, as we work to restructure your view of the world in which you live, that you embrace being a worker. Embrace being the person in the crowd that will get the thing done. We need to restructure the order in our community. Vest our responsibility and vest our faith in the worker, in the men and women who do what's right because it's right. And it's always a good time to do what's right. All right, we're at the top of our second hour. At this point, we encourage listener participation. Our number here is 741-9288, 741 WATV. We are talking about Cooper Green Mercy Hospital. We're talking about the Jefferson County bankruptcy. Well, it is a rupture. The bankruptcy. We're talking about visioning and planning about how we as a people step up now and take responsibility and control of our destiny here in this city, in this county. Or we're going to continue to sit back and let all white attorneys determine the future of Jefferson County. And I really don't like using that term, Curtis, because I think it's so limiting. I am reminded of years ago in my professional life. I worked in a bank in New York, and what was the precursor to international banking, I worked in a division that we called the foreign division. And in that division were people from all over the world. But nobody in the division refers to themselves as a black person or as a white person. You know, there were German people there were Dutch people, there were French people, there were English people, there were Norwegians, Scandinavians, there were Jamaicans and Nigerians, all Asians, everybody. But they refer to themselves, you know, based on their country of origin, not on their outward appearance. And interestingly enough, it's only when you get to the South, and a lot of these people who, I guess, identify as Caucasians get to the South and become white. They stop being Italian, they stop being German, they stop being French, and they just become white. And I think they lose a lot in that. I recognize that in the South, white has this privilege, of course. White get all the public works projects, white get all the legal work, white get all the CPA work, white get all of everything. So I can, you know, I understand it, but I think that they lose themselves, they celebrated themselves by not being who they are and simply accepting white. And I guess white privilege cannot be argued with, especially not here in Jefferson County. Certainly, white folks got everything. So I guess if you could change and declare yourself white tomorrow, you might want to do that as well. But anyway, those are some things that we're talking about here on the program. That's the situation that we find ourselves in here in Birmingham and Jefferson County 50 years after I guess the country decided to say once again that we were citizens. And you need to think about that process as well, that we had to go through all of that just to get civil recognition in this country, and how that mindset is so pervasive among, as Father Alex calls them, the dominant culture, where they actually think that they should in fact own everything, they should in fact be in control of everything, and that people of color have no rights that they are bound to respect. So at some point, if we're going to move forward, we're going to have to have this conversation about restructuring the system and dealing with those things that matter as it relates to our enjoying the full benefits of citizenship, particularly here in this Valley of Jones. All right, I'm going to go to the phone lines. I'm going to invite you in. I hope you know the topics that we're talking about, and I hope you're prepared to contribute, because all of our listeners out there in Mountain Brook and West Davie and Hoover don't have a whole lot of patience if you don't stay on the subject. All right, welcome to Knowledge is Power.
Thank you. A great subject today, Mr. Finley.
How you doing, sir?
1870, nobody's here, and all of a sudden the world's on the west, and all of a sudden people started writing, and like the whole press, they were put into communes in different parts of the South that are mainly owned, not by the middle class, but are owned by corporate who have a mind or facility to make things. And you go there, you go to the facility, you go there and you live in the neighborhood, you go there and you get fed, and the folks have health care, and you have one-stop shopping. Many of you coming here from Italy and other countries don't even speak English. My little family was living with a home, and occasionally at night time they have some non-function junction type of full function junctions, and they basically have like a whole family to raise a child. It's a whole community business where the brand that the employees was part of the quality of the product, and you had maybe 10 or 15 of us.
Yeah.
And then some changes were made. People find growth, and they expect to go in, and there's only the workers and the children at school and the high school schools, and eventually some of the people got better jobs, and they're interning, and they got net plays, and they got have families and help each other. And then, about the 1950s, that playing field went in. And when that playing field went in, like somewhere in the 50s, women started having rights to have work, to equal work, and they were starting to come out of school and go to school with things of being lawyers and accountants and doctors and things like that. And suddenly the men that might have been going into these areas had to compete with women that were in school together, and you couldn't keep them out because it wasn't fair, and you had a civil rights deal. And when they did that, the women couldn't take 2 places in the town, and when they went into that type of a lifestyle, many married, many with children, many of them did not have the ability or the capacity to do the time parent raising things that used to be done when mama stayed home and dad went off to work. And there was a weakening there of the family structure, which resulted in cars and in suburbs and everything else, and televisions. But basically what happened was that the quality of the daily contact in terms of minutes and uncles and aunts and next door neighbors and you know, everybody around the block that knew you, and the same thing with your school. All of that was disappeared to a point where we became communities of strangers. And just as the need for the peoples and the babies coming up for more and more support systems like they used to get,
You're having trouble with your phone there, Bean. You're breaking up on us.
What basically took place is that just as these people changed, just as we started to need more and more support from the federal, state, and local governments in the 50s, right after Johnson, who recognized the problem, they started backing off, and we're now at a problem right now where if you're a parent with a child in Mountain Brook and a parent of a child in Platte City, you're scared to death because things are changing in a bad way too often. That bar down there where I shot the bullets in Tuscaloosa, I will bet you that those were some of the most successful students in the city that were in that bar on that strip down there. And their parents are scared to death right now. Same thing at Auburn. Mm-hmm. But what I'm saying to you is that in the past, the church has been the mediator, the ones that looked over it and said, okay, you're my flock and I'll take care of you. I'll help you with jobs when you're getting laid off. I'll help you with food when you have a need. I'll help you with and I'll help you with and I'll help you with. And the changes that have taken place in the churches began when Alabama South went run around to give everybody more money to double and triple the size of your church. And once you did that, you went from a service church, which was a storefront church, you were able to have people to pay for the utilities and do all the other things, and now you went from a service church to what I call a show church. You had to start putting on shows that people would want to come to, that television would want to do. And that was another major group that used to run these communes that is no longer. Some of the churches are going back that way. We're seeing it in some of the larger Baptist churches. You think of the largest ones in town you can think of. The Catholic Church is taking some blows. They're not going that way. They're backing off of what they used to do.
Okay.
They have to have their own hospitals and everything else. That was part of that same model where we'll pick up the slack when you go to work because you're going to be a good member and your child is going to be surrounded by us.
Okay.
So what I'm saying to you, and then this will be my ending statement here, I know we've lost one and maybe two generations of children, and when I say children, I mean up into the 15s. Many of them were parents that were 12 to 15 themselves. We're at an age right now with a third generation. Some of these parents are young when they have these babies, and the babies have babies. Mm-hmm. And you now have, coming into the schools, children that are not ready for school. They don't have shoes and clothes and pants. Their language skills, their paper and pencil skills, their getting along with friends skills, these are all things that make it easier for school to be good with you. And we're sitting here watching two presidential candidates fighting for which way they tear our schools down even worse. And I think the only chance we have right now are the churches, because we're in the middle of a civil war. Go talk to parents in Homewood like I do, in Vestavia, and go talk to parents that are out there in Mountain Brook. They're scared to death. That same thing is going on in Trussville. Right. They thought they had it made, and they're looking up, and they don't know if they're going to have their jobs. They're not going to have the children's money for the children to go to schools. And you're seeing a recycling of the 60s, fear, anxiety, and independence taking place. And from the police to the school people to the parents, everybody out there is scared to death right now, and somebody better come along quickly with a government plan or a city plan.
All right. Thank you, Bean. You're going along there. But you made some excellent points. And the part you said at the end about coming up with a government plan, I don't know that we necessarily need that. How do we restore the church and faith and morality to the center of our community again? I don't know how we do that either. But I do know that this problem in the country, and particularly here in this Valley of Jones, where groups have separated themselves and segregated themselves and created these problems where we don't know each other, where we don't trust each other, and you get phony politicians and people who just hustling public bucks to make a living and not really intending to serve the people. The government is becoming more and more of a burden on people. People are stressed out. They are fearful, and we've got some difficult days ahead. Caller, welcome to Knowledge is Power.
Good evening, Richard.
Good evening. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well, and thank you for providing this opportunity to participate in your town hall meeting.
Come right in.
You brought up some great points, and I'd just like to take a few moments and see if I can make a contribution. Richard, first off, in our county, the county of Jefferson, it is my analysis that we, the black community of the county of Jefferson, we have some urgent problems, and I think you've articulated them to the point of, what we face with the sewer debt and what we face with Cooper Green. And the problem, of course, with the debt and with Cooper Green is how we got here. I want to say something to you, Richard, one black man to another, and I'll tell you why I want to say this. I want to say to you that because of the situation, I have to trust you until I can. And the reason that I say that, I think that is one of the key issues that we have to overcome before we can truly recognize the problem in a manner that we do something about it. We have to trust each other from within our community, and I wanted to say that.
Amen.
My basis for saying that is because Attorney Grigsby came to our county, and he went to our county seat in the commission. And he explained with his great legal mind what the problem was at that time before bankruptcy with the sewer debt. And I've always wondered, but I had to accept, why didn't the commission as a body, and not just one commissioner, buy into the legal brief that he provided?
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I have to conclude that is because the commission as a body has no interest in protecting the 65% of ratepayers most affected by rate increases based on the self-directed plan they already had in place.
Well,
that's my analysis.
All right.
And with that said, it becomes absolutely necessary because grandmama, little brother, little sister, auntie, cuz, they will be devastated if someone does not intervene with the court on their behalf.
Yeah.
The people that have been designated by those who got us into this mess and continue to perpetuate it, they have no interest for the least of those among us who is most affected.
Mm-hmm.
And listen, I know you have other callers, but I wanted to say that to you. Number one, we have to trust each other. And within that trust, we have to come together. And within that coming together, we must, as you have said in your dialogue this evening, make demands upon those who govern.
Yes, we'll have to.
That's my conclusion. Now, in regards, and I'll say this, and I'll try not to be too long, but in regards to Cooper Green, and I want to speak to that as a taxpaying citizen. The one thing, and let me preface it with this, nobody loves a liar. Would you agree?
I agree.
Because if you lie to me, then I cannot trust you.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to summarize because I tend to listen to what people are saying, but I can't believe my own eyes. If you recall in committee meeting, there was an intimation from the attorney representing the commission that there was no $71 million owed to Cooper Green. This was publicly presented.
Right.
And one of the commissioners, I believe it was Commissioner Carrington, said he'd never heard of it.
Well, you can try to elaborate on stuff he's never heard of.
Well, and this is why I categorize things as lies, because if you did not hear of it, as your attorney said in the hearing on Ms. Mosley's case on Tuesday, and I was there.
All right.
He acknowledged that the $71 million was acknowledged as being on account at the county, and the commissioners resolved that it was owed to Cooper Green.
And they submitted it to the bankruptcy court that it was a legitimate debt.
And they did that.
Yes.
So you have already blatantly lied to this taxpayer. And I just wanted to get out to your audience, and this is one man perspective. We have to trust each other.
Mm-hmm.
We have to come together, and we have to, at minimum, demand that you, as a body, a governing body, tell us the truth. You ignored what Mr. Grigsby brought to you last year, and he brought you the legal briefs. Why did you ignore that? And you lied about $70 million because it defeats your characterization that the general fund is funding Cooper Green to the tune of $10 million annually. That's a lie if you owe them 70.
Thank you, Ronnie. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You know, this group has lied from the day they walked into the courthouse. They have reneged on any agreement that they make with the black community. They don't hesitate to renege on those agreements. And they want to be slick by saying, you make these accusations, we're going to ask the county district attorney, we're going to ask the state attorney general. Hell, let's ask the federal government to come in here and do this. You're going to tell us you're going to ask the county attorney, and all those folks are your buddies, so we don't have any faith in anything that you say because you've consistently lied. So we need to ask the federal government to come in here and conduct these audits. You hired one CPA firm that has been doing all these audits for the last 5 years. That's not ethical. That's not good business practice. We need to rotate at a minimum of only 2 years so that we can have some reliance on the information that the CPAs are providing for us. But you go with the same auditors. You go with the same consultants. You go with the same lawyers who advised the previous commissions to enter into these illegal financial transactions. You keep them on payroll to defend us in this situation, and then you refuse to represent the citizens. How blatant can you be? And how many times are those folks going to lie to us before we accept the fact that they're liars? And that they can't be trusted. We need to call for the Fed to come in here, take control of this situation, and get to the bottom of this mess so that we as citizens can begin to restore some faith in government. There is too much on the line. We cannot pay $3 billion that somebody else borrowed and stole and left us with the bill. We have no benefit from that $3 billion as citizens. Our state constitution, as Shelby always, protects us from these kind of financial dealings by our government. And now, these guys are putting on some sort of sham in the court to try to convince us that they're going through the legal process when we know clearly that that's just you up on the believe in yourself, it ain't raining. So you can cut that out. You know, we're not falling for the trick any longer. And for all of you out there, within the sound of my voice, all of you capable of making responsible adult decisions, this is a situation that matters. It has consequences for you, for your children, and for your grandchildren. You have to engage. You cannot sit this battle out. You must let these people know that they can't come in here and run some sort of kangaroo court, some sort of banana republic, some sort of third world justice system on the people and expect us to just sit back and take it. But that's the mentality. That they have the right, they have the power to consistently abuse us and deny us our rights. Yeah. I had said I was not going into this Birmingham Board of Education thing because I don't know enough about it. But I do know that they had a physical altercation over in Tussville at the school board meeting, packed house, cussing and fighting and carrying on, fired the superintendent, and nobody at the state saw any necessity to go over there. What our school board seems to have is a disagreement that apparently has some merit because it's in court and it's going back and forth. I don't know the full story. But for them to come in and say, well, you know, you need $12 million, so once you don't have $12 million, we're going to take over and we're going to fire 200 people. Well, I know that firing 200 people would require that your elected representatives take some sort of action to make sure that that is absolutely necessary, and that if it is absolutely necessary, that it is done in a proper manner. But that leads me to another point. Why in the world would the Birmingham school system have a shortage of money or a deficit? The school system has spent $400 million dealing with monstrosities all over town. You would think that the contractors who got these $30, $40, $50 million contracts to build those schools would, out of gratitude, donate the reserves to the school system. So if I got a problem with the Birmingham board, is that if you let these people come in here and do business with your school system, and we're spending $400 million, and at the end of that, you're broke. You have to seriously rethink your operations and your policies. You know, when the contractor built the Hoover High School, the contractor donated the athletic structure, the football field, and the stadium. Did they donate anything to the Birmingham school system? Did they come back and write the school system a check before they paid taxes and said, well, for the privilege of being able to work and feed my family and keep my boat and my lake house and travel around and all this, I'm going to make a contribution to the Birmingham public school system? No, I came in and took all the money. And again, if you're running the Board of Education and you don't have sense enough to recognize that you can't spend $400 million and not let that money stay in your community, you're educating some of the poorest kids in the state. Their parents need jobs. Did you make those contractors hire local folk? Did you make those contractors share the work with local businesses? If there was absolutely no reason for the Birmingham school system to be broke. Now, I don't know about another argument, but I know that to be a fact. And if the school board is not capable of seeing the total picture, then certainly we need to replace the school board. But if you're standing around on a legitimate reason on this thing with Ray Richardson, then, you know, you do what you think is right or not, but you have to really start rethinking how you're handling your money and who you spend your money with. If they are not ready to come back and contribute or donate to the success of the Birmingham school system. Always corporate building and construction folk who are criticizing and talking about Birmingham all the time, but coming in here walking out with sacks of money. That foolishness has to stop. So if you're saying about better education broke, and we got spent $400 million, you need to give up this so you can go on back home, go back to the Samuel or Coleman or somewhere. You don't need to be on there interfering with folks' lives if you don't have that kind of walking around sense. You're going to spend $400 million, and then the state going to come in and take over saying that you don't have enough money to operate a month. You ought to have an endowment of at least $50 million after spending all that money. I mean, people, seriously, we got to rethink what we're doing here. And, as Reverend Williams said, we got to learn to trust each other and share information and share resources and build our community. And one thing has been demonstrated to them, if you don't do it, nobody's going to do it. We've told you a number of times that capital, especially investment capital, is a coward. And if they don't see you wanting to invest in your community, they're not going to invest in your community. And when you sit up and spend $400 million and have no mechanism for those companies to contribute to the well-being of the system and to the community, to let them just walk out with that kind of profit, makes absolutely no sense at all. And whoever was construction managing for them need to be fired too or sued. Makes absolutely no sense at all for us to be in this kind of financial situation here in the city of Birmingham. The Johnson County thing is just absolutely ludicrous. But our situation here in Birmingham, it's just dumb. I mean, we can turn this around. We can handle this. We've got the resources to handle our school system. And I'm going to try to get in touch with Mr. Maddox to have a conversation with him, because certainly we can handle our school system. And I will sit back talking about maybe the white folk can straighten it out. No, we won't straighten it out. We need to sit down right now with Mr. Maddox, Mr. Witherspoon, find out what the problem is between them, get them to understand that our priority is to have a school system that produces functional, fully participating, educated citizens. That is the priority. That's the number one thing that the school system needs to be doing, is turning out some young people who are educated, who have the ability to think, who learn how to conduct themselves in a civil manner, and who learn how to make a positive contribution to our society. We want the schools turning out thugs that we can't talk to, we can't control, that we have to sit up with bars in our house to let know. That we're going to cut that out. We have to take control of our community. Preachers got to preach a new way, teachers got to teach a new way, and those of us, or those of you who choose to govern, going to have to govern. We can make this thing work. It's not about any of you individually, it's about all of us collectively. We can make this thing work. We have to trust in one another, and those of us who trust is placed with have to be responsible enough to be worthy of that trust. When people put you in a position, give you that faith and that trust, honor that faith and that trust. Be men and women of character, be men and women of substance, so that we can create in this valley a garden that will produce good fruit, that will be bountiful, that we will fulfill the charge that was given to us, that we will multiply and be prosperous. We can do all of that. We've got to talk to one another. Brother Williams pointed to the fact that Mr. Grigsby had a meeting And I understand that all the public officials here, most of them don't talk to one another, dislike each other. Well, we don't have time for you to be disliking each other. You've got a charge, you've got a responsibility to make our government work for us. You've got a charge, you've got a responsibility to make our lives better, provide for us as a society those things that we cannot provide individually. That is your charge. We don't care whether you like one another or not. You better respect each other and do your job. You are responsible to us, and we expect to have responsible people delivering for us a quality, non-corrupt government. We've got too many resources to be wasting stuff. You know, I tell you every day that you're living and you're creating black history. Well, we've got a sorry story to tell here after 50 years of what we thought was the culmination of the struggle, to realize that we're worse off economically today than we were 50 years ago. We're worse off educationally today than we were 50 years ago. We've been going backwards ever since. And it's time to stop that foolishness and sit down and put together a structure that allows us to move forward as a civil, educated, intelligent community. We're going to take one last call, Chris, and we're going to close it out. Call you about 1 minute. Welcome to Knowledge is Power.
Yes, sir. It's Finley.
Yes, sir.
I'm going to play the physics tonight. You said stick to the topics.
You got 1 minute now.
Yeah, you say stick to the topics. All things are related, so how can one stick to one topic? Now, last night, a guy called in and talked about having dignity and integrity. How can anybody have dignity when they don't have integrity? Let's define integrity. It means to be honest and independent. How can you be honest if you're not independent of those people who actually oppress you? You say be a worker. In this society, where the labor people is stolen by one group, make it simple, the big fish eat the little fish. Why should I be a satisfied worker? I mean, y'all converse with me. You said you're honest. I've been sharing my knowledge with you and the listening audience for years, and you cut me off. Why should I trust you if you can't be honest with me? Or the listening audience? Let's be honest. You talking about democracy.
Your 1 minute was up. All right. Smithfield, bless your heart. I know you mean well, and we love you. It's been 2 hours, and I hope that something we've said here has found fertile ground with all of you. And I hope that when you wake up in the morning, you wake up with a zeal and a zest to go out and do right. God has truly blessed us here in this community, and we cannot squander that blessing, because there will be an accounting, and we've got to deal with the things that matter in our community. And you need to always understand that it does not matter who is in power. Those who have not learned to do for themselves and have to depend solely on others never obtain any more rights or privileges in the end than you had when you started. You have to take responsibility for your life. You have to take responsibilities for those things necessary to have a life. We have here in this valley control legally, politically, of this city. We are the majority population. We're in this county. We cannot sit back and allow a minority group of individuals to continuously mislead and lie to the public, to inflict upon us the kind of economic damage that it would take generations for us to recover, if we recover. These things are our responsibility. So Birmingham, I'm calling upon you, the members of our adult community, to be responsible citizens. Engage yourself in the things that matter in our community. You've been listening to Knowledge is Power. Tonight's Thursday night, July the 19th, 2012. I'm Richard Finley. I'm your host. We'll see you next week.